natin kung sisimulan ang Way of the Future vaccination to address our shortage of vaccinators. The use of big pharmacies and private sector clinics and the use of our pharmacists as vaccinator. The rollout will start first at pilot areas in NCR and then expand in other cities and lastly to other regions based on the readiness and safety inspection.
You heard Vaccine Chief Carlito Galvez confirming that vaccines may soon be available in a drugstore near you. Close to 2 years into the pandemic, government has finally decided to roll out vaccines in pharmacies and clinics. Select drugstores in NCR will kickstart the program targeting those in need of booster shots.
The drive will then be expanded nationwide. This as government hopes to fast-track booster vaccination. So far, less than 5 million Filipinos have received their third shot, a far cry from the 2022 target of more than 70 million. The push for boosters comes at a time when the Omicron variant has pushed cases to new highs. Good evening, I'm Gretchen Ho.
I'm Robbie Alampa, you're watching The Big Story. Before you rush to a drugstore near you to get that COVID shot, a little reminder, walk-ins are not allowed.
Other countries have long used pharmacies and clinics to roll out vaccines. But over here, government hopes this would help address the surging COVID cases. JC Cosico has the big story.
With the community transmission of the Omicron variant in Metro Manila and surging cases across the country, government is making a strong push for booster jabs. But what if you have flu-like symptoms? Can you get jabbed right away? The health department says you may do so, but only if 3 months have passed since your second dose of AstraZeneca, Pfizer, Sinovac or Sputnik vaccines, or 2 months of a single dose of Janssen. You should also be done with your isolation period. Did not have fever the past 24 hours and respiratory symptoms have improved. Studies say if a person receives AstraZeneca shots as primary dose and as booster, it would not only generate a good antibody response, but also a person's T-cell response.
We call the T-cells our soldiers, our effector cells. Then the more T-cells you have, the more chances na you can fight off the virus within your body and you will not get severe infection.
If you had Sinovac as primary series, other booster brands would generate higher antibody responses. As for those with AstraZeneca, Pfizer and Moderna, an expert has this to say.
You have a bit higher immunogenicity if you are giving a Pfizer or Moderna in any of the AstraZeneca or Pfizer vaccine. No? But again, the point here is that it's all of this vaccine can boost and can have an effective level of neutralizing antibody and response.
Question is, will there be a fourth dose as the virus continues to mutate?
We still don't have definitive answers. Every time na may bagong variant kasi, we have to test it. We have to assess.
With only 4.7 million Filipinos who have received their booster jab, the government eyes to inoculate 72 million Filipinos with booster this year. The plan is to increase daily output to 500,000. To do this, select pharmacies at NCR will roll out shots beginning January 20. Around 3,500 booster doses will be initially rolled out for the first 7 drugstores, but this will be further expanded after the pilot run.
Ito ay partnership sa mga botika at private health companies para lalong mas maging accessible sa publiko ang ating mga bakuna.
The Res Bakuna sa Botica will then be expanded nationwide. For News 5, JC Cosico, we are One News.
How do the selected pharmacies plan to administer COVID-19 vaccines? That big question and more with Brian Posadas, National Manager for Immunizing Pharmacy Certification Program of the Philippine Pharmacists Association. Good evening, Mr. Posadas. Welcome to The Big Story.
Good evening, Robbie. Good evening to all our viewers.
Sir, how complicated is this rollout? Or for that matter, how easy is it? Is everything in place o meron pa po bang kailangan gawin ang mga butika?
Okay, so this is the first time that we will be doing it in the pharmacy in the Philippines. But this is not something new, no, in the profession per se. there is an existing law actually, way back 2016, which includes administration of adult vaccines to be done by pharmacists. So we are preparing for this for quite some time already, and we have been training pharmacists. So kasama sa mga initial pilot sites natin, they were trained comprehensively, and pinhinanda natin sila para siguraduhin na ligtas ang pag-administer nila ng bakuna at siguraduhin din na tama yung mga dosage and all of those things that needs to be done in the farm.
Okay, I mean, Mr. Posada, sabi nyo nga po, merong batas, matagal lang pinag-uusapan, and I think it's safe to say a lot of people are excited about this. It seems like a very good idea. It's so good, in fact. It begs the question, bakit ngayon lang? Why did it, we're more than 2 years into this pandemic, why did it take this long for us to say, no nga, no, kanto-kanto yung mga butika, why can't we use that?
Okay. It was actually in the RA 11525 on the original yung COVID plan natin ng national government. And it's really part of the plan na magro-roll out in the pharmacy during this year, no. Una, ang reason natin is more of the stock availability. Second, we have to prepare the pharmacists because we have to train them. Kasi hindi naman ito initially kasama nung una naming mga pharmacists, no, sa curriculum. Hindi ito kasama. So kailangan na muna mag-training, magsana yung mga pharmacists. And now that we're seeing na kaya namin mga na-trained na tayo, then we're ready to really roll this out. Kasama to sa original na plan, talagang kapag dumami na yung stocks, and then we have to improve on the access already, kaya ito nangyayari ngayon.
Okay, so alam po natin, ipapilot muna ito. It's a limited run first. But how long will it take before people can just go to the nearest pharmacy to them and get their booster shots? Gaano katagal pa po ito?
Ang initial na plan, kung hindi ako nagkakamali, within the first or second quarter of this year, ma-roll out to kahit sa mga provinces. And we have trained pharmacists, immunizing pharmacists, we call them immunizing pharmacists. Hanggang sa Mindanao, hanggang sa Visayas, nandyan din sila. May mga tinrain na tayo para nga suportahan yung government natin, lalo na ngayong niro-roll out na natin. Pwede na silang pumunta sa mga butika para magpabakuna. Kagaya ng ginagawa sa mga developed countries like the USA and Canada.
Okay, maraming salamat po. That was Brian Posadas, National Manager for Immunizing Pharmacy Certification Program of the Philippine Pharmacists Association.
Thank you.
The move to come up with more vaccination sites comes at a time when infections have been soaring. Tonight's big number is 1,805%. This refers to the 2-week growth rate in COVID infections. Health Secretary Francisco Duque says that there has been a slowdown in infections in recent days. The country remains at critical risk due to the Omicron-driven surge. Cases today are below 30,000, but Duque says we are not out of the woods yet.
Nag-umpisa na magplato, Mr. President, but we still don't know kung sisipa pa ba ito muli or patuloy na magplato. Tapos hopefully bababa siya. Yes, sir.
These are the other big stories tonight. Workers are exempted. The Labor Department spares commuting employees from the controversial no vax, no ride policy. We're indeed nearing Election Day. Ballot printing has started, with Marcos Jr. still on the voting sheet despite pending petitions. And a couple of heartbreaking stories in sports. Tennis player Leylah Fernandez exits the hard court while golfer Yuka Saso starts playing for Japan. These big stories after the break.
Good evening. You're still watching The Big Story. I'm Robbie Alampay.
And I'm Gretchen Ho. The Philippine Food and Drug Administration says it is still accepting applications of self-test kits for performance validation.
This as they try to iron out guidelines for the use of at-home kits. But as early as now, the Health Department says home saliva testing might be the least reliable. Mobile journalist Pamela Vasquez with the story.
The Philippine Food and Drug Administration now has 11 applications for self-test COVID antigen kits. The FDA received 9 more applications, which were forwarded to the Research Institute for Tropical Medicine for evaluation.
Itong 11 na ito, ay lahat po ito ay dumaan na po sa FDA. At noong January 9 po, 2 application ang na-forward natin sa RITM. January 13, 5 applications po.
According to the Health Department, it takes about 48 hours to finish a performance validation for a specific kit.
Kapag po naipasa na sa RITM ng FDA at pumasa sa performance validation, babalik po sa FDA within 7 to 10 days. Lalabas po ang registration or certification nito mga home-administered test kits.
The FDA added it would continue monitoring even after these products become commercially available. In the meantime, the DOH is eyeing voluntary reporting of antigen tests that were done at home for COVID monitoring and management.
Sa 24/7 question and answer na pwede namin gawin. Ngayon, yan po ang ina-explore natin na baka pwedeng i-key in ng ating mga citizens yung paggamit nila ng antigen para makita po natin kung ilan naman yung nami-miss out natin into these reported cases natin.
Antigen testing has become rampant in households despite the DOH continuous reminder that no self-test kits have been approved yet by the FDA. The DOH added it is also not recommending at-home saliva testing.
The saliva specimen that is used, especially for antigen test, has the lowest efficacy, yung sensitivity. So siya po yung least reliable.
The DOH has yet to release guidelines on the use of self-test COVID kits, but says it's already prepared instructional materials for these. Mobile journalist Pamela Vasquez, We Are One News.
Time for our next look at some of the day's big stories. Labor Secretary Silvestre Bello III says workers are exempted from the no vax, no ride policy. Workers only need to show their company ID when taking public transportation. Bello says the workers are technically exempted because going to work is deemed an essential activity. President Duterte, meanwhile, has allowed limited face-to-face classes to areas under alert levels 1 and 2. DepEd says the expansion is still subject to the input of LGUs, parents, and the school. Education Secretary Leonor Briones says more face-to-face classes may take place starting the first week of February. And a bill criminalizing hoax ordering was approved in the Senate. Senate Bill 2302 prohibits cancellation of confirmed orders and refusal to receive unpaid orders. Riders will no longer shoulder payments for canceled or fake bookings. And the individuals who book the order will receive a fine of at least 100,000 pesos.
Apart from now having limited number of passengers, drivers of public transport now have to deal with another spike in fuel prices, already the third this year alone. Leylah Francisco has the story.
Already anticipating the big-time fuel price hike on Tuesday, Jason already filled up his jeepney's tank on Monday. This, coupled with the new limits on travelers in Metro Manila, is expected to further deplete Jason's income. Gasoline prices are now up by almost a peso per liter, diesel by more than a peso, and kerosene by more than 2 pesos.
Medyo mahirap po kasi mabagal na po yung pila namin gawa nung nagigpit ng yung gobyerno tungkol sa vaccine ID po. Tapos bigla na naman tumaas yung diesel.
Motorists and delivery riders who gassed up today already felt the impact of higher fuel prices.
Huwag muna silang magtaas ng gasolina kung ganito, lalo na pandemic ngayon, para hindi na dagdag presyo.
Yung dating 150 ko full tank siya. Ngayon medyo hindi na umabot ng full tank.
This is now the third consecutive week of fuel price hikes. This year alone, gas prices have edged higher by 3 pesos per liter. Diesel and kerosene saw prices hike by more than 5 pesos per liter. Despite the global Omicron surge, the Energy Department says market prices remain high amid the limited supply. Production of oil-producing countries have yet to catch up to the demand.
Unlike before sa Delta na talagang natigil ang ikot halos ng mundo, yung mga economic activities, itong Omicron sabay ngayon na bumabawi ang mga bansa.
DOE says market expectation is that supply will stabilize by the end of March. With this, Bayan Muna questioned why the bill calling for the suspension of oil excise tax for 6 months is not included in the list of priority bills. The DOE says they have yet to discuss the measure.
Yung mga ganyang fiscal measures, more on sa concern ng government agencies like DOF, DBM, kasi makaka-apekto yan eh. Yung mga, alam mo naman na yung mga taxes natin or any income ng gobyerno.
For its part, the Agriculture Department is now finalizing the guidelines on fuel discounts for farmers and fisherfolk this year. The DA says 500 million pesos was appropriated to the program in 2022 and will be given when the average Dubai crude oil price for 3 months reach at least $80 per barrel. Leylah Francisco, we are One News.
For the big story in sports, the journey at the Australian Open ends for Filipina-Canadian tennis player Leylah Fernandez after facing elimination in the first round of the competition. World number 24 Fernandez lost to Australian wildcard Madison Inglis 6-4 and 6-2. This is the third straight year she was defeated at the first hurdle at the year's opening Grand Slam. Fernandez had 30 unforced errors, only 8 winners, and was broken 3 times. For Inglis, it was a first win in a Grand Slam main draw. Over in golf, Japanese ace Yuka Saso will start playing under the Japanese flag when she sees action in the LPGA's Hilton Grand Vacations Tournament of Champions this week in Florida. Saso is set to relinquish her Filipino citizenship in 2 years. The LPGA has even recognized Saso as a Japanese citizen with her profile on its website featuring Japan's flag. The 20-year-old rising star had competed for the Philippines for most of her illustrious career, becoming the youngest U.S. Open champion last year and representing the Philippines in the Olympics. Time for another quick break. When we return, Comelec is set to commence the printing of ballots for the May elections, and one name with pending petitions made it to the ballot after all. Later, Michelle Obama's birthday dance and why it's going viral online. And feeding time for the Philippine Eagles. Let's take a look at that after the break.
Good evening. You're still watching The Big Story. I'm Robbie Alampay.
And I'm Gretchen Ho. With just around 5 months before the elections, the Commission on Elections is set to begin the printing of ballots.
10 candidates for president are in the ballots, including Ferdinand Marcos Jr., despite pending petitions to disqualify. Del De Vera with the story.
The printing of ballots for the 2022 elections is set to commence. This after the Commission on Elections conducted a virtual walkthrough at the National Printing Office on Tuesday. Based on the Comelec schedule, ballots will be printed for absentee and overseas voters on Wednesday, while ballots for local voters will be printed on Thursday. Over 67 million ballots must be printed before the poll body's target date of April 21.
We are realistic in anticipating contingencies, including na po yung COVID surge and infection of our workers. So hanggang April 21 po kasama na po dyan yung buffer period. Mga 2 weeks or 3 weeks po ang buffer.
Security at the National Printing Office has been tight. 3 printers will be used, including one specifically bought for the upcoming polls. The ballot will be similar in appearance as the previous poll. National and local bets will form the front page, while party lists will be printed at the back. The ballot will also be printed in 3 sizes, depending on the type of voter and area it will be sent to. So, whose names are included in the ballot? Based on the Comelec's list, there are 10 presidential candidates, 9 vice presidential aspirants, 64 senators, and 177 party lists. And despite pending disqualification cases, presidential aspirant Bongbong Marcos's name was included in the ballot.
This has already been finalized and yun na nga, meron na tayong ballot phase. So, his name is there.
Should the Comelec First Division support the petition against Marcos, a substitute may be fielded in as long as he or she has the same last name. But if BBM's certificate of candidacy will be cancelled, votes for him will be considered stray. A group of petitioners urged the Comelec not to print the ballots just yet. This as the group filed a motion for reconsideration on the rejected petition for the cancellation of Marcos's COC.
Malinaw mismo sa Comelec rules na kung isasama nila ang pangalan ni Ferdinand Marcos Jr. sa balota ay sila mismo ang lalabag sa kanilang sariling rules.
The Comelec has yet to release a statement on this. For News 5, Dale De Vera, we're One News.
And here are the other big stories around the world. North Korea has conducted its 4th missiles test this month, firing 2 tactical guided missiles to hit an island target in the East Sea. The test is the latest in a series that highlights the country's evolving missile program as denuclearization talks stall. Some Tongans are fearing that they may never see their loved ones after an eruption and a tsunami caused significant damage over the archipelago. Tonga's small outer island suffered extensive damage with an entire village destroyed, many buildings missing. The death toll remains at 2, but with communications cut in the island, the true extent of casualties is still unclear. A preliminary study in Israel shows a 4th COVID-19 shot is less effective against Omicron. Israel's Sheba Medical Center compared the effects of a second booster shot given to its staff with a control group that did not receive any such 4th shot. The initial findings show the 4th shot increased the number of antibodies, but it may not be enough to protect against Omicron infection. Israel started offering a 4th dose to the most vulnerable and high-risk groups.
Age is nothing but a number, especially for former FLOTUS Michelle Obama, who celebrated her 58th birthday looking all youthful. With Stevie Wonder's Happy Birthday playing in the background, a bare-faced Michelle Obama is seen vibing on her Instagram birthday post. The former U.S. First Lady expresses her gratitude to everyone who sent out their greetings. Meanwhile, Michelle's husband, former U.S. President Barack Obama, took to Instagram his love for Michelle on her special day. With a beautiful photo of the couple captured from Hawaii, Barack greets her love, partner, and best friend a happy birthday. Also happening the same day as her birthday is Martin Luther King Jr.'s Day, which she referenced when she took to Twitter her support for John Lewis Voting Rights Act. For News 5, MJ Marfori, we are One News.
Netizens are gushing over a video of a Philippine eagle chick being fed by an eagle hand puppet.
The Philippine Eagle Foundation has released the most wholesome update on a 1-week-old eagle chick. Chick 29 was fed using the puppet so it wouldn't get used to human presence.
The foundation says limiting the human presence helps ensure that the eagle pairs with another eagle in the future, but 29 can rest easy as he is still living the life as the foundation's baby.
Ganun pala yun, ano?
It's napakaganda. No? You can understand why it went viral, why people are gushing over it. Kasi it really is a sign of hope. Every time you see anyone, anything taking care of a baby, kahit ano pa yan, it's a sign of hope.
And talagang pinangangalagaan natin ang ating Philippine Eagle, and it's good. It's a good update amidst everything that's been happening. So hopefully we do get more of those good news and take care of nature and our eagles. Well, that wraps up
we could
today's
use more of those.
big story. Catch us again tomorrow at 8 p.m. on Signal Channels 8 and 250.
Please like our Facebook page, One News. For more in-depth analysis, visit our webpage, onenews.ph. Mask on.
Wash hands.
And stay safe, Philippines. I'm Robbie Alampay.
And I'm Gretchen Ho. We are One News. Have a good evening.